Imagine building a fairy tale empire so perfectly polished, so obsessively curated that the entire world is meant to fall at your feet, only for that illusion to crack loudly, publicly, humiliatingly when the very celebrities you tried to impress start looking at you like a complete stranger. Because this isn't just a story about awkward moments. This is a slow motion collapse, a pattern, a trail of tiny fractures that, when stitched together, expose something far more unsettling hiding behind the spotlight. It starts innocently enough, or at least that's how it was sold. A charming little anecdote, a magical encounter, the kind of story that sounds too perfect to question until someone does. We met, God, I don't know how many years ago. How long ago was that? A long time ago. Well before I was even on Suits, I think over a decade ago maybe. Right, but we met at a pet shop, and I was going there to rescue a dog, and it was right around Christmas time, and you would come in at the same time, and you just looked at me and said, "Are you getting that dog? Get that dog. You have to take that dog home." I was like, well, if Ellen said I have to take the dog home, I'm getting this dog. A perfect Hollywood origin story, right? A rising star crossing paths with a daytime legend. Fate, destiny, validation. Except reality didn't cooperate, because when that same story was brought back under the harsh lights of live television, something chilling happened. The memory vanished completely. The person who was supposed to confirm it didn't even remember it. Not vaguely, not partially, at all. And in that moment, something subtle but devastating shifted. Was it exaggeration? Was it fabrication? Or was it something deeper, an obsession with being seen, even if the story had to be rewritten to make it happen? And just like that, the cracks widened. Because once the illusion starts slipping, it doesn't stop politely, it accelerates, it snowballs, it becomes impossible to ignore. And suddenly, the world isn't nodding along anymore, it's laughing. Our first guest, the prince and his wife. We want privacy. We want privacy. All right, thanks for having us on the show. Not a respectful critique, not a subtle jab, a full-scale cultural demolition. When a global animated juggernaut turns your life into satire, it's not random, it's recognition. Recognition that something doesn't add up, that the message doesn't match the behavior. A privacy tour blasted across headlines, cameras, lawsuits, interviews. The contradiction wasn't hidden anymore. It was screaming, loud, ironic, almost theatrical. And here's the unsettling part. Hollywood didn't defend. It didn't rally. It watched. It laughed. It leaned in. Because behind the scenes, something else was unraveling. Something far more damaging than public mockery. The money, the deals, the promises. A multi-million-dollar empire in the making, reduced to whispers of disappointment. 12 episodes. That's all it took for a dream to collapse into silence. And then came the moment that didn't just sting, it branded. A powerful executive didn't hide behind corporate politeness. He didn't soften his words. He detonated them, calling them grifters in front of a massive audience. Not lazy phrasing, not accidental, deliberate, sharp, final. And once a label like that sticks in Hollywood, it doesn't wash off. It echoes, it follows, it defines. And yet, despite the backlash, despite the ridicule, despite the very visible decline in credibility, the need for validation didn't fade. It intensified, which leads to one of the most quietly explosive moments of all. Not loud, not aggressive, just revealing. Give your diva moments sometimes, Meghan. Don't even do I give you. Don't act like you. But it stopped me in my tracks when she called me a diva. You couldn't see me, obviously, but I started to sweat a little bit. I started squirming in my chair in this quiet revolt, like, wait, what? No. What? How? But that how could you? That's not true. One word, diva, said casually, almost playfully. But it landed like a direct hit, because when someone you admire, someone whose status is undeniable, mirrors back a version of you that you don't recognize or refuse to accept, the reaction tells a story no script can control. The discomfort, the panic, the need to correct it immediately. It wasn't just awkward, it was exposing, like watching a carefully constructed persona crack under the lightest pressure. And by now, a pattern is impossible to ignore. Moments that should elevate instead unravel. Opportunities that should strengthen instead expose. Every stage becomes a test. Every camera, a microscope. And then comes the moment where it stops being subtle altogether, where the tension becomes physical, visible, unavoidable. A stage, a microphone, a simple exchange that turns into something else entirely. And what happened next? It didn't just raise eyebrows, it froze an entire room. And that frozen moment on stage, it wasn't just awkward, it was revealing in a way that words alone could never capture. Because what unfolded wasn't loud, it wasn't chaotic, it was quiet resistance. The kind that exposes everything without saying anything at all. A hand reaches forward, expecting compliance, expecting the natural flow of attention, and suddenly it doesn't come. The microphone doesn't move, the presenter doesn't bend, and for a split second, just a split second, the illusion of control flickers. There's a pause, a strange, heavy silence, the kind that feels louder than applause, and then a second attempt, a pivot, another reach, but again, resistance, not dramatic, not confrontational, just firm, subtle denial, and in that denial, something deeper surfaces, because when someone is used to being handed the spotlight, what happens when the spotlight refuses to be taken? That moment wasn't just about a microphone. It was about expectation colliding with reality. It was about control, slipping, and the room felt it. But if that moment hinted at something beneath the surface, what followed confirmed it. Because when the setting changes from charity stage to sports field, you would expect the energy to shift, the behavior to adjust. Except it didn't. A victory, a genuine one, hard-earned, sweaty, chaotic, earned in the heat of competition. A team gathers, ready to celebrate their moment, their win, their spotlight. Cameras flash, the trophy gleams, and then something unexpected happens. A presence enters not from the sidelines, but straight into the center. Not invited, not needed, but positioned perfectly, strategically. The players hesitate just for a second. Confusion flickers across their faces because suddenly the geometry of the moment is off. The symmetry is broken. The one who should be peripheral is now central. And when the trophy is lifted, it has to be maneuvered around that presence, literally around it, over it, as if the moment itself had to adjust to accommodate a different narrative. And the cameras, they captured everything, not just the image, but the tension, the silent shared question, who is this moment really for? And if that wasn't enough, if that didn't fully expose the pattern, then what happened at a place meant for honor, dignity, and respect shattered any remaining doubt. A procession, veterans, men and women who carried stories far heavier than any headline. The atmosphere, solemn, meaningful, but then the rhythm changes, the formation breaks, and suddenly someone moves ahead of the very people being honored, not beside, not behind, ahead, leading, dominating the visual frame. And it's not subtle, it's deliberate. Cameras follow. Of course they do. And then, in a moment that feels almost surreal, a wheelchair becomes a prop, a quick crouch, a sudden smile, a perfectly timed photo. And just like that, something sacred turns transactional. Something real becomes aesthetic. And the discomfort? It's immediate. It's undeniable. Because you can't fake respect. And when respect is missing, it shows no matter how carefully the moment is staged. But perhaps the most unsettling pattern of all doesn't happen in public victories or formal events. It happens in the smallest gestures, the quiet ones, the ones that most people would miss if they weren't so persistent. A hand reaches, a grip tightens, a subtle pull, then resistance, a release, and then, faster this time, a stronger grip, two hands, locked, firm, unyielding, the infamous double claw. And what makes it so unsettling isn't just the action, it's the timing, the speed, the refusal to let go when the signal is clear, because body language doesn't lie. And when one person pulls away while the other pulls back, the tension becomes visible, tangible. Uncomfortable. The setting? The United Nations. A place of diplomacy, composure, control. And yet, right there in front of the world, something deeply personal, deeply revealing plays out. A quiet struggle for control. A silent negotiation of boundaries. And when it ends, it doesn't end in balance. It ends in surrender. Shoulders drop. Eyes forward. Stillness. But not peace. Just acceptance. And it doesn't stop there. Because even in moments meant to showcase unity, polished, controlled, media-friendly moments, the same dynamic leaks through. A red carpet, lights flashing, cameras hungry, the perfect environment for a flawless image, hands clasped, composed, professional, until suddenly fingers pry, slowly at first, then insistently. A literal tug of war hidden in plain sight. It's almost surreal. Two people standing still, yet locked in motion. A struggle so small it could be ignored, yet so persistent it becomes impossible to unsee. And when the hand finally opens, when the fingers finally intertwine, it doesn't feel romantic. It feels forced, like an image achieved, not a connection shared. And just when you think you've seen every version of this dynamic, the narrative flips. A stadium, thousands watching, a moment engineered for affection. The kiss cam, the crowd cheers. The expectation is obvious, predictable, scripted. And then disruption, a lean in, a rejection, not subtle, not private, public, immediate. A hand up, a push away. Laughter, but not warm laughter, deflective, almost dismissive. And in that moment, something fractures because the same connection that was demanded, controlled, enforced in every other setting is suddenly denied. And the contrast is jarring, confusing, almost calculated. The audience feels it, the cameras capture it, and the person at the center of it left staring forward, expression drained as if the script changed mid-scene and no one handed him the new lines. But perhaps the most explosive collision of all wasn't with celebrities or athletes or even partners. It was with tradition itself, a doorway, a hierarchy, invisible rules that have existed for centuries, and yet ignored, challenged, stepped over, literally, an attempt to move ahead, physically ahead of someone whose position is defined not by fame, but by lineage, authority, history. And the response? Instant, silence, absolute, a single gesture, a finger, a direction, no words needed, no explanation offered, just correction. And in that moment, the entire illusion of equal footing dissolves because some systems don't bend, they don't adjust, they don't care about narrative, they enforce reality. And reality in that moment was undeniable. And yet, even after all of this, the interviews continued, the stories continued. The performances continue. You know how to curtsy, right? And I just thought it was a joke. How do you explain that you bow to your grandmother? And that you will need to curtsy, especially to an American. Like, that's weird. Americans will understand this. We have medieval times dinner and tournament. It was like that. Like I curtsied as though I was like a laugh, a reenactment, a moment meant to entertain, but instead it unsettles. Because behind the humor, there's something else. Disregard, dismissal, a reduction of something deeply symbolic into something theatrical. And the reaction, it's not loud, it's not explosive, it's quieter, heavier, the kind of reaction that builds and builds until it doesn't need to be spoken anymore. And that's the thread running through all of it. Not one moment, not two, a pattern, a series of interactions that when viewed individually might seem awkward, but together they form something else entirely, something intentional, something consistent. Because the real question isn't what happened in each moment. The real question is, why does the same tension keep appearing no matter where they go? And more importantly, if these are the moments we can see, what's happening in the ones we can't?